This is the second video in this series test your algebra skills. Let's go right to the first problem. This one is to solve. It's to solve a linear equation, first degree. These will have either one solution or no solution. So we want to isolate the variable. So we can subtract 3x from both sides here. This gives us 2x. So subtract 2x from both sides. 3x from both sides, I should say. So 3x from 3x cancels to 0. 5x. Subtract 3x is 2x. And then we're going to add 2 to both sides. Add 2 here. Cancels this one. Add 2 over here. Gives me 8. Then isolate the x, so we'll divide by 2. This, of course, becomes a 1x, or just a plain x. And a divided by 2 is 4. So x is equal to 4. And you can check your answer here by just plugging in 4 here. 4 times 5 is 20, minus 2 is 18. 4 times 3 is 12, and 6 is 18. We get the same thing. So that checks. Okay. So again, as usual, you can pause the video and try to solve it on your own. And then come back to the video and see if you got the answer right. So this one is again an equation. 3x squared is equal to 4x. You want to solve for x. So this is a quadratic equation. So to solve a quadratic equation, we make one side 0. So here I subtract 4x from this side. That gives me 0. And then I subtract it from the other side. Get 3x squared minus 4x equals to 0 then. And quadratics can be solved in a variety of ways. Main 3 methods are factoring, completing the square, or quadratic formula. So first you try factoring, and then if it doesn't work, then you go the other way. Go with the other methods. So here we can factor out an x. 3x squared, take out an x, gives me 3x. Take out a x from the minus 4, x gives me minus 4. Once you have a product of factors equal to 0, the only way that product can be 0 is if one of those factors is 0, or if they're both 0. Because 0 times anything is 0. So we simply set each factor equal to 0. So x can be 0, or 3x minus 4 can be 0. Add 4 to both sides here. I get 3x equal to 4. Add in a 4 here and a 4 here. This is what we get. And divide through by 3 to isolate the variable. We get x is equal to 4/3. And again, you can easily check these. Obviously, you put a 0 here where the x is. 0 squared is 0 times 3 is 0. Over here, 0 times 4 is 0. 0 equals 0. And you can do the same thing with the 4/3. You get the same thing on both sides. Cancel this. Okay, the next one again is a quadratic equation to solve. X squared minus x equal to 6. We're applying the same method here. Want to make one side 0. We can easily do it by subtracting 6 from both sides. 6 minus 6 gives me 0. And then I subtract 6 from the other side. Okay, now this is a trinomial. Again, we'll always look for common factors if we can. Factor something out here. We don't have a common factor, so we use the technique for factoring trinomials. So put in two sets of parentheses. Factors of x squared, we can put an x and an x here. Factors of 6 are 6 and 1, 3 and 2. So the object, of course, is to get two factors and multiply to give me this expression here on the left side. So I can make factors of 6 and are also minus 3 and 2. Okay, x times x is x squared. Minus 3 times 2 is minus 6. And then product here, 2x minus 3x gives me minus x. That checks out. So those are the factors that give me that trinomial. And then again, the product of two factors is 0. The only way that can happen is if one or both are 0. So we simply set each factor equal to 0. So x plus 2 can be 0. X minus 3 can be 0. Then we solve for x. So the first equation, we get add negative 2 to both sides. We get x then can be negative 2. Add 3 to both sides here. X can be 3. So x can be negative 2 or 3. And again, you can easily check, plug it back into this equation, and you get what's on the right side, which in this case is 6. Cancel this. Okay, and the next one. You can pause the video again, solve it, then come back. Okay, this one has, it's an absolute value equation. The absolute value of x minus 4 is equal to 6. So it's important to know the main definition. The absolute value of x is any number, will be x if x is greater than or equal to 0. It'll be the opposite, or minus x, if x is less than 0. So the absolute value of 2, that's positive, will be 2. The absolute value of 0 will be 0. And if you have a negative number, like a negative 3, that's the value of negative 3, according to this definition, is the opposite. So the opposite of negative 3 is a positive 3. So this tells me then that the absolute value of any number is always either positive or 0. Never negative. So in this case then, let's say absolute value of x minus 4 is equal to 8. What is x? Well, that means that this could be 8, because the absolute value of 8 is 8. So that means that x minus 4 can be represented by 8. And the absolute value of negative 8 is also 8. So x minus 4 can also be negative 8. So add 4 to both sides here, we get x can be 4. For 12, I should say. Add 4 to both sides. Add 4 to both sides over here. 4 and there cancels. Minus 8 and 4 is a minus 4. You can easily check it. 12 minus 4 is 8. Absolute value of 8 is 8. Minus 4 and minus 4 is minus 8. Absolute value minus 8. is 8. So these are your two solutions. Okay, cancel this. Okay, this one has, again, solve an absolute value equation. Again, pause the video, you want to figure it out, and then come back. But as I said earlier, the absolute value of any number is either positive or 0, never negative. So this one has no solution. No solution. Okay, another equation. This is what we call a radical equation. It has to have at least one radical. In this case, it's a square root. The easiest way to solve these types of problems, if it's a square root, isolate the radical. And in this case, it's already isolated, and just square both sides. So keep in mind that when you have the nth root of some number and you take it to an nth power, because the nth root means x to the 1 over n. So when you take that to the nth power, it's a power to a power, so the n's cancel out. This n and this n cancel out, divide out, it's 1 over 1, so it's x to the first over x. So here the index is understood to be a 2, so these are the same. This is a cube, and you put a 3 right there, it gives me the radicand, well, in this case the x. So this just gives me x. 7 squared is 49. Radicals, it is important to always check your answer, because when you square both sides, a lot of times that can lead to extraneous roots. We'll check for the squared equation, but not for the original one. So always check the original equation. In this case, it's x equal to 49. That's your answer. Okay, same type of problem. We square both sides. Again, it's a square root. It's already isolated. Okay, so these are pretty basic. They can get a little bit more involved. You'll see some of those maybe later on. So if I square the left side, that just gives me x minus 2. If I square the right side, 10 squared, that's 100. And then you solve for x. Add a 2 to both sides. Minus 2 and 2 cancel. I get x on this side. 102 plus 2, rather, is 102. That's your answer. Quick check. 102 minus 2 is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. Checks. Clear this. Okay. Another equation. This is a cubic equation. Okay, third degree. So if it's third degree, at most you can expect three solutions. Again, similar to the quadratics, if you have one side 0, you try to factor the other side. So you can see we have a common factor of x. That's the first thing you look for if you're solving an equation by factoring. So take out the x. X cubed, take out an x, that gives me x squared. And then this be a minus 4 equals 0. Notice x squared minus 4, that can still be factored out. Difference of squares, so if you have difference of squares, it's always the difference in the sum of the square roots of those terms. So x square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is 2, so make this x minus 2. And x plus 2. equal to 0. So again, you have a product of factors equal to 0. That means at least one factor has to be 0, or they all can be 0. So x would be 0 when x is 0. This factor can be 0 when x is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So that's another solution. This factor can be 0, x plus 2, when x is negative 2. It's negative 2 and 2 are 0. So there's your solutions. 3 solutions. 0, 2, and negative 2. You can plug those numbers into the left side of the equation, and that'll give you the right side. Go to the next one. Okay, so play around with it. 3 to the first is 3. 3 to the 2, that's a 9. Okay, how about negatives? 3 to the negative 1, like we did in the first video, that would be 1/3. Right? 3 to the negative 1, and you have a negative power. This goes to 1/3. 3 to the negative 2 goes to 1/9. Okay, so you can see there's no way we're going to get a negative number. This base here is positive. No matter what the x is, it's always going to come out positive. So this one has no solution. No solution. Cancel this. Go to the next one. Factoring problem. Okay. You have trinomials, so there's a method for factoring trinomials. We use that in solving previous equations in this video. We also did an equation where we factored a binomial to solve it. In this particular case, it's not an equation, we're just trying to factor this. This one has 4 terms. So what we try to do here is try to group the terms. So notice I have an x squared, a minus yx, and an x minus y. So I noticed that the first 2 terms have an x in common. So let's take out an x there. The x squared becomes x. Take an x out, that becomes a minus y. Okay, and then this, you just leave it the way it is. Can't do anything there. Just write x minus y. And I'm doing that so that I can factor it. So coefficient here is understood to be 1. I'm going to put a 1 times that. And again, just like we did a while ago in solving the equations, take out a common factor. In this case, this factor is common here. Yeah, this term has an x minus y, this has an x minus y, so take out the x minus y. This. Okay, taking out the x minus y on the first one. This one leaves it with an x. And over here, taking out this x minus y, that leaves me with a plus 1. So this polynomial here with 4 terms factors into x minus y and x plus 1. Okay, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.